other action like civil suit for damages which is lawfully available to the victim or the heirs of the deceased victim for the tortious act committed by the functionaries of the state. The state cannot at any time claim any kind of immunity in cases of custodial death. Death in police custody must be seriously viewed, for otherwise we will help take a stride in the direction of police Raj. Now moving on to the medical treatment. The medical treatment regarding the prisoners must be sought at the earliest opportunity. There are various newspaper reports regarding Madani, who was imprisoned for 9 years in the Coimbatore bomb blast case, where it was alleged about the lack of proper medical treatment to him, who being physically disabled with only one leg and a highly diabetic patient. There are thousands of prisoners in India who are not given proper medical assistance when needed, which might result in a lot of grievance to them, and also it violates their right to be treated as human beings. Again, a reference can be made to Narmada Ben's case, where a convict prisoner was denied medical treatment by the jail authorities in spite of being prescribed by the jail medical officer that if not treated outside by the private doctors, her condition would deteriorate. But it was shockingly seen that even after 3 to 4 months, she was not treated in the nearby hospital due to the lack of police escorts. This was brought to the notice of the court, which ordered temporary bail to the prisoner requiring treatment by considering the opinion of doctors, and if they produced medical certificate, the period would be extended if it was a genuine reason. It is for this reason I would like to state that both the Additional Chief Secretary, the Home and the IG prisons at the relevant time should further take utmost care to see that the problems pertaining to the immediate medical treatment is attended for with and solved at the earliest. The next thing is commissions for examination of prisoners. Where it appears to any civil court that evidence of a prisoner is material in any matter pending before it, and for reasons like the prison situated outside the state or more than 50 miles away from this respective court, and the prisoner cannot be brought before the court, then the court may issue a commission under the provision of the Code of Civil Procedure, which is Section 75, Order 26 of Civil Procedure Code 1908, for examination of the person in prison in which he is confined. The next topic is detention illegally if continued louder than imposed. Detention of under trial prisoners in jail for a period longer than what they would have been sentenced if convicted is illegal and in violation of Article 21 of the Constitution of India. It is a crying shame on the judicial system which permits incarceration of men and women for such longer period of time without trial. The court has two categories of under trial prisoners, that is the poor and the non-poor. The non-poor may not even stay in jail for few hours after they are directed to be released after taking a security or bond worth lakhs. But these poor prisoners, under trial prisoners, who are very large in number, are compelled to languish in this jail for months and years for not even able to pay a small security of ₹1,000. I would like to draw reference to a famous case law, Rudal Shah versus State of Bihar, where the petitioner was kept in jail for nearly 14 years after his acquittal on the ground of insanity. The Supreme Court ordered the petitioner's immediate release and directed the state to pay him ₹35,000 as compensation for deprivation of his liberty. These are clear instances of depriving the under trials of their freedom and liberty solely on the ground of poverty. The last point I will be discussing is prisoners' right to writ jurisdiction. Prisoners are persons entitled to invoke the court's writ jurisdiction. The prisons are built with the stones of law, and so it behoves the court to insist that in the eye of law, prisoners are persons and not animals. Prison houses are part of Indian earth, and the Indian Constitution cannot be held at bay by jail officials. When a prisoner is traumatized, the Constitution suffers a shock. Thus, the Supreme Court held that a prisoner whose rights under the Constitution of any other law are violated is entitled to invoke the court's writ jurisdiction, which is clearly explained in Article 32 and 226 of the Constitution of India. Finally, thus I would like to conclude by saying that it is very apt to tell that prisoners are humans and not animals, and they have to be treated with humanity. They are already going through the punishment for the wrong done by them, and they need not be deprived of their human rights also. In spite of severe strictures passed, fines imposed, and imprisonment ordered by the Supreme Court on the police personnel for violation of human rights of prisoners, there is still no abatement of these crimes, and their atrocities are still climbing the heights. Thank you.
Ms. Veera has highlighted 5 rights of the prisoners, and she has also touched upon the emerging compensatory jurisprudence area in our constitutional jurisprudence under the writ petitions. And these 2 student speakers, by their subject and also presentation, I think they have kept us imprisoned for 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Then I will move on to Ms. Nishita. She will be presenting a PowerPoint on euthanasia. When you are depending on technology, you should be very careful about time management. Keep this in your mind. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody gathered here. My topic is euthanasia, that is mercy killing. I would be dealing whether it has to be legalized in the present context as well as in the Indian context. So the history of euthanasia comes from the Greek, which means you, and Thanos, which combined means good death. And the major setback for this is the Hippocratic Oath, which always tells you that to prescribe, I will not prescribe a deadly drug which does not cause death. So majorly what mercy killing is a death, causing a death. So a physician is always reminded of his rights and duties before prescribing a drug towards his patient. And mainly euthanasia has been recognized since ages. As I say, since ages, it has been formulated by the rishis telling that if dharma, artha, kama, moksha has been attained, then he is free to leave his body. That means what? He has freedom to choose the death he wants. And life has always two phases, that is birth and death. If we are given a choice to choose the life how we want to live, then why are we not giving the people the right the way they want to die? I mean, why is it restricted in certain circumstances where the person wants to know why he wants to die in a certain age? Here, how many of you would like to die a very heinous death or would suffer the death of nobody would ever imagine? Rather than we would ourselves think and we would die where we are happy enough to leave this world. So instead of dying a painful death, it's better that you ask a physician to prescribe a drug which relieves your pain, and you can leave this earth without any tension. And here euthanasia is 2 types, that is passive euthanasia and active euthanasia. Passive euthanasia, which means that it is the physician who's taken the responsibility to cure you will take a conclusion telling that you no longer need a life prescribing machines which would prolongate your life. So he will cut short that, and as soon as the life prolonging machine is taken off, you lead to death. And this is a passive euthanasia where it considers a good practice not to artificially prolong the life of a suffering person whose disease is not curable and is beyond the hope of medical science. And in this, Adel NHS Trust versus Bland, which the majority of the court has held that patient's life has to be prolonged by medical treatment regardless of circumstances, where a person, if he has discontinued, he feels that by the doctor that it was no longer for the best interest of the patient. There are 4 certain requirements which has to be considered by a physician. The effort to rehabilitate a patient for at least 6 months after the injury. Second, the diagnosis of vegetative state. did not consider confirmed until the 12th month of the injury. Third one, diagnosis should be confirmed by 2 other doctors. The wishes of the family should be given weightage. The major case, the euthanasia which has introduced in the society was basically due to Karen Klein case, which she was a major figure in United States to bring in a legislation for euthanasia which has been legalized in US. She fell unconscious after coming home after a party because she was on she fell into a vegetative state, that is a state of continuous unconsciousness where she cannot be recovered. That's called as a permanent coma state. So after this, when the hospital, her parents wanted to take off the vegetative state, but the hospital refused it. So they went to the court and asked for the court permission to let her die peacefully, and the court has agreed to it. So majorly what next I would like to deal with is that the physicians who are undergoing this have a mental trauma, telling that whether they have to listen to a patient or whether they have listened to a profession. Where the profession says that they have to give a life-saving drug to a patient, but the patient who wants to die, actually the physician has to fulfill the last wishes of his patient, whether he has to listen to the patient's wish or to carry on with his duty. So majorly this is a trauma which the physicians are going through nowadays. So what I would like to say is that there is a certain concept called living will, which tells a patient or a person who at the time of writing a will, he would tell, if I am not in a curable state, or if I cannot be recovered from any incurable diseases, I can be terminated. That is called a living will, which has been sanctioned by the US. So here in the Indian context, the cases which have come across the Supreme Court is suicide cases, that is right to die. And here I want to tell you that right to die and euthanasia are 2 different topics, because euthanasia is a mercy killing, telling that you are relieving a person of his pain. But suicide, which also means that you are giving a person right to die, which here in mercy killing, the right is invested in the physician, where he feels that if the person cannot be cured of his diseases, only then he can be terminated. Otherwise, it is considered illegal and he can be brought under the prosecution of IPC. And majorly, the Indian cases which have dealt comes under the 309 of IPC, that is right to suicide. So here, what I would like to say is here that there is no actual legislation to bring in euthanasia in our country, but the society has been slowly being introduced the concept of euthanasia through various media means, movies, and especially books. So the case which I have told you was Quallen case, who has been subjected to the matter of book, a movie, and also a long public litigation. So here, rather than discussing what human rights or euthanasia deals with, is rather than your personal perspective, telling that if your loved ones are suffering from an irrecoverable diseases, who is suffering from a pain which you cannot ever imagine, because a pain is neither subjected to, it's subjective. What amount of I feel the pain may not be felt by you. So naturally, it's that you cannot step into another person's shoes and feel the pain. We all say, I can understand your feelings, I can understand your problem. But the main problem is that the person who's undergoing it suffers it. So naturally, instead of thinking that, why are we bringing in legislation, bring in a legislation in India, and let us cure the persons who would want to die, a peaceful death, rather than suffering a death which cannot be recovered in any medical sciences of this field. So I would just, in 2 minutes, sir? Last session, I would conclude telling that if at all we have a chance to get a person a happiness for his last days, and this is the better means to relieve of all his pains and sufferings by just leaving him to die how he feels like, but under a specified legal methods, that is by a physician's note. That's what I would like to end it. Thank you.
So, Ms. Nishita is a 4th year LLB student of this college, I already told you. She has pleaded her case very well, But when you cite American cases, in America there is waiver of fundamental rights. In India it is not possible. So we have to think it when you are talking about within the parameters of Article 21. We have to keep this in our mind and going about it. But anyway, I am very grateful to all the paper presenters because they stuck to the time limit and they have made the chairman's job easier. So chairman, anyway, I'll be presenting my paper. Then that time, if it is necessary, I will say everything in that time. So now it's time for the discussion. The floor is open for discussion. Be specific in your queries. If you want to say anything, I want to make some observations, you can have it after the post-lunch session. If you have any queries addressed to the speakers, because you will have ample time in the afternoon also, that time you can make the observations or any statements, but that time the speakers will not be available. So make use of the presence of the speakers and you can ask specific short questions and we can have some 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that. We can't enjoy that luxury because lunch is waiting for us. If you want, you can have the hand mic. Can I have some volunteer, please? Some volunteers? Yes. Some volunteer. You need